Hello, my name is Barney Dellar and I'm going to be giving just a quick 10-minute talk on 10-minute talks. So I'm a software team lead at Canon Medical. We're based down in Leith, and we write software for surgeons and radiologists, and we mainly deal with imaging data from CT, MR, X-ray scanners, that kind of thing. And I've been coding in C++ for about 25 years now, and I'm still interested in keeping up with the language and new developments, but I'm also really interested in passing on that interest, that skill, that knowledge that I've picked up. And I'm a team lead, and I'm really interested in Agile. This is the Agile Manifesto, if you don't know it. It's got 12 principles, and you don't need to read them all, but this one here, I think, is really quite key for a lot of what we do. Continuous attention to technical excellence and good design enhances agility. This is basically an argument from engineering to management that as professional engineers, we should keep our skills up to date, and that by focusing on our own technical excellence and also making our code really good, which ties in a bit with the last talk, that we will be delivering more value to the company. We are also regulated because we write medical software. We're regulated by ISO 13485. And this is a quote from that standard, that we have a requirement to keep our skills up to date. This is, in order to be regulated, in order to get our software sold, we have to comply with this. So, how do we improve our skills? How do I share my knowledge with more junior engineers, less experienced engineers? On my current team, we have weekly learning meetings, which are about half an hour or so at a time, and that's good. And teaching anything is a great way of learning. On my team, we also practice mob programming, which is a great way of sharing information and knowledge, but that reaches a fairly small number of people in the company. So, there's an excellent podcast called CPP Cast, which I highly recommend. And last September, I was driving down to Sussex to see my dad, who was dying at the time, and I was sort of binging on a load of podcasts on the way down to take my mind off it. One of those was a podcast by Simon on hacking keyboards, which was great. But there was also an interview with Jonathan Bucara, who's from Paris, and I listened to it twice on the way down. And one thing he talked about was his idea of doing a daily C++ talk. And his great idea was to do a small talk every day. Each talk he did was just 10 minutes. So this makes sure that each session is bite-sized. You don't need to give much information. It's fairly easy to take in. And importantly, he did the talks in the team area. So for a member of a team, you don't have to go to a meeting. You don't have to go anywhere. You just stand up and gather around a computer. And it's only 10 minutes of their time. So it's a nice, easy way of doing it. So I thought it was a great idea, and when I got back, I knocked up a month's worth of talks. Well, I did them on the fly. Each one took about 45 minutes to prepare, and I focused on a few key points in my talks. Know your tools, add meaning to your code, respect levels of abstraction, and make your code easy to read. I had the advantage that Jonathan Bucara had already done all these talks, and I just had to nick them from his blog site. That made it easier. So with Know Your Tools, I went over the STL and how to use it well. We should all know the algorithms and the containers in the STL. We should all know how to use the various smart pointers in the standard, and how to choose between them. And importantly, we should understand the meaning that's encoded by your choice of pointer, or your choice of container, or your choice of algorithm. Because fundamentally we're professionals and we should be skilled in our craft. Add meaning. We should use the type system to encode our intent. This is stronger than any comment, and the compiler understands it as well as a reader. And that's great, because it encodes your intent and meaning within the code itself. We should choose names that read well. We should not encode types into names, that's just cruft. And we should choose names that encode our intent, and they make the code easier to understand. I talked about respecting levels of abstraction, that we should follow the single responsibility principle, where every module or class has responsibility for a single part of functionality that's provided by the software, and that responsibility should be entirely encapsulated within that class. That we should have cohesion, where there is only one level of abstraction at any given place, and our code should be expressive, that we should make our code concise and express meaning, and have code in the right level of abstraction. And I talked about making our code easy to read. There was a bit of informal research done by Microsoft a couple of years ago showing that even experienced programmers, when writing new code, spend the vast majority of their time trying to read existing code. I think it was about more than 75% of time was spent reading old code. So if we want to be able to write features in the future in our code base, we have to make sure that the code that we're writing now will be readable in the future, because today's code is tomorrow's legacy code. And for me, that's really the fundamental rule for writing maintainable software. So after I'd done that set of talks, that was a month's worth of talks, I gave them to my team. I offered to do them for other teams in the company. But I offered them on a condition that somebody from their team would have to do the same thing and do a series of talks to their team and then pass it on. That offer was taken up. We had a Java development team in the company that were interested in C++. So I gave my talks to them, and one of them is now knocking up a series of talks on Java, which he'll do to his team and then offer them to my team and then hopefully go on from there. And also on my team, we've now had talks on modern JavaScript and also on basic Groovy. Alistair, who's sitting here in the front row, is going to be presenting his talks on JavaScript to another team next week, again on condition that one of them does a series of talks and passes it on. So, in conclusion, teaching others really is a great way of learning something yourself. A 10-minute daily talk is a great way of teaching others in small, manageable, bite-sized pieces. And the whole thing helps to foster a culture of learning and technical excellence. And that's my talk on daily C++. Any questions or comments? Yeah.
Sorry, yes, more of a comment. So where I work, we've stopped doing this now, but we also did like 10-minute presentations every morning. But we didn't do it on coding. It was like you had to talk about anything at all. You choose your topic. I did one on what is colour, which is ended up being much longer than 10 minutes. But I found in a similar way, I think it's not just having to talk about code, but talking about anything for 10 minutes every morning. It's just a great thing for a team, and it's like.
I totally like the idea of talking about things that interest you as a way of helping build team cohesion. Yeah. And we do that on our daily stand-up. We just discuss interesting things that have happened to us.
Yeah,
this I like for a different reason, because it's helping to build technical excellence, which is also a key part of what we're doing. Yes.
Part of Agile,
oh, sorry.
Part of Agile is supposed to be having the product, the domain expert in the team participating in this.
Certainly, Agile does look at trying to tie the whole value stream together. But I don't think there's any need for somebody with an expertise in our case, medical imaging and radiology, knowing about how we're writing the code. They need to know what the code will do, not how it's written. I think that's our job as engineers to be experts in that.
I was thinking more of them using the same sort of...
Oh, I see. To do talks on their expertise. That's a good idea. Yes, I would strongly encourage that. Yeah. Sorry, you got a question at the back?
So you mentioned sometimes you might want to sell to management. How difficult is it to get management on board with educating people regularly, and what are your techniques for selling to them?
I'm a team lead, so I kind of am management, so it's really easy for me. Make the case. If you're working in a agile environment, then point them at that principle. And if you're working in a regulated industry, then point them at your equivalent regulated thing. Just tell them you're an engineer and you need to be on top of your skills because they've hired you because you're good. If you don't learn, you won't stay good forever. It's in their interest to invest in engineering excellence. That's why they want engineers. Yes?
You mentioned that you also had a kind of weekly larger session. Did you keep doing that as well?
Yeah, we still do that. Yeah.
Okay. Do you kind of like focus on different types of topics too? Or?
Yeah, they tend to be specific individual things, whereas my talks were a bit, I don't know, like, here is an SDL container, let's look at this one. That's maybe a bit too short for a half-hour session. But, yeah, we still do them. Yes?
Have you thought about a remote team? How would you implement this?
I haven't, because I don't have one. How would you implement it? You'd do it with video conferencing, I assume. You have issues with time zones if you've got people in multiple time zones that don't intersect, but it should be relatively straightforward if you've got video conferencing facilities to do it. I also always emailed around the slides after on the presentation, so people could always read the slides that I'd presented and see what I'd said. Yes?
Did you encounter much resistance evangelizing this initially among the engineering staff, trying to get people to come on?
Again, because I'm the team lead, I just started doing it. So that was quite easy. And because I'm managing most of the people that were coming, it was quite easy to tell them to come and listen. But when I tried to get other teams interested, that certainly took a while to get picked up. Everyone's busy. Being on a drunken business trip with one of the guys from the Java team helped. But, yeah. Yeah, Simon.
I don't know if it's still the case, but when I originally talked to Jonathan about this, he was only doing them like on whiteboards and not using slides or anything. So I wonder how you feel about using slides versus not for like small presentations like this.
If it works for you, then whichever way works. Yeah. I found it easier to do slides. I find often trying to do live whiteboarding can go a bit more wrong. I need to have notes of what I'm going to write on the whiteboard, and then I just feel, why not just have the notes up? But if it works for you, then sure. Whiteboards are a great tool if you can use them well. Cool. Thank you.